Oh, hot? Yeah.
It's hot. Okay, hot for us. I guess if I lived in Miami, Florida, I'd just laugh at this. But it's about 95 today and kind of humid. And that's all right. What I'm doing in this yard, what we're doing, is I don't know if equalizing is not the right word, because we're not equalizing. We're like the reverse of equalizing. We're taking from the poor and giving to the rich. Or I should say we're taking from the poor and giving to the middle class. And this is an example. This colony had maybe 4 or 5 frames of brood, some foundation, and the honey flow is about 7 to 10 days away. So the size it would not make a crop of sourwood unless it was an absolutely exceptional year. I have had those kind of years where a colony like this would make me a super. So what I'm doing, this colony was actually even smaller than this one. I'm actually taking brood out of this colony, which is smaller, and it's not going to, there's the queen, so that made that really easy. I'm actually going to take 2 frames of brood out of the smaller one, put in the mediocre one. Yeah, see, it's got some good brood. And I might even take another frame out of something else before I'm done with this one. There's the queen. That's actually a frame of eggs, so I think I'm done. And I'd also had taken a frame out of that one right over there, which had swarmed. And we actually took brood out of that one that had swarmed and gave it to a couple colonies and just left them with 2 frames of brood and their virgin queen. So now suddenly, in 7 to 10 days, this thing is capable of perhaps making a super honey. This one obviously won't, but it can build up during the sourwood flow. So let's see, I would title this video Boosting for the Honey Flow, or what's a good title? What's a cute title? Taking from the poor and giving to the rich.
Just about taking from the poor and giving to the rich. That's about what you did.
Yeah, so we'll think of something for a title. But this is very common. Usually when I'm doing this, I'm doing it with colonies that have just swarmed. If a colony has just swarmed, it's not going to make any honey, obviously, because our sourwood window is so short. It's just 2 weeks, 3 at the very most. So taking frames of brood out of a colony that swarmed and boosting up something that's mediocre size can pay dividends in the end. And we do it a lot. It's a lot of work.
I've got 2 here that are close to making honey. I've got 2 here that I was going to put a 1 gallon on, but I guess I'm just going to take out that brood. Would you do that or put the 1 gallon?
Yeah, let's take these weaker ones, take brood out.
Yep.
They're not going to make honey this year, so it's not like we're losing anything.
Okay.
Leave them with 2 frames of brood. And that queen, they'll be plenty ready for winter.
Okay.
And make these ready for sourwood. Exactly.
Yeah, see, I wasn't sure if they would be ready then, but if they won't, then I'm going to go ahead and get it.
Of course, you got to make real sure that the queen's not on there.
Yeah,
that's the kind of frame you want to donate to the other colony.
That's perfect. There she is, right there.
Well, that makes it easy. So this has got eggs on it, so that can stay. That's got brood. Yeah, you got room for 2 broods in here, John, out of this one.
Okay, yep. And that's a big fat honey frame, one of those, this one right here. You can take that one out if you want. Brood.
I'm even taking, as you can see, we're taking honey out too and slipping brood in there. So this thing is now 9 frames with brood and plus that drone comb there. So in 7 to 10 days, it's really going to be quite stout. There'll be a big explosion in there.
One more out of here.
Let's put it in this one.
All right. This
one's got a lot of room in the super. And we are, like I discussed in one of our videos, leaving the lids cracked.
Okay.
That extra ventilation at the top like that not only helps the colony stay cooler, but I'm really convinced that it helps with the swarming impulse too.
Yeah.
So occasionally I get asked whether it's best to under super or over super. And they did a study at the University of Georgia a couple decades ago to find out whether you made more honey by under supering or over supering, and their conclusion was it doesn't make any difference. But in this case, we're going to under super because we're fighting this swarming impulse. I want to put the empty comb immediately above the brood nest, and then we'll put the full super on top. That would be called under supering. And it really is just a theory of mine, and I've never read any research on this particular subject, but it seems like by putting empty comb immediately above the brood nest that it gives the bees a sense of empty space or a void that they have to deal with and fill. And it seems like it would help with the swarming impulse better than just stacking the empty super on top. If anybody has any ideas or opinions, or perhaps some experiences on that when it comes to swarm control, I'd welcome reading them in the comments section of this video. A lot of new beekeepers are kind of curious when to super. This colony is in a what I would call a moderate flow. It's not coming in real hot and heavy, but it is coming in. So in this case, I like to wait till I see them working on the outside frames. They still have some empty cells. It is that dark honey. If you wait till they have no empty cells, your honey production will begin to decrease because the bees use empty cells to cure very thin nectar coming in. Ideally, as long as you're confident that the nectar is continuing, you don't want to wait till they're out of empty cells to use. And they're on the last frame, so it's perfect timing to super. This one over here, we're just a little bit late, I think. Let's look at this last frame. And by late, I don't mean it's a disaster. It's just, yeah, they've actually got a couple of empty cells left, so I guess we're right on time. Now, if this was a heavy flow at the moment, I wouldn't have wanted to wait this long because, you know, we're not going to get back here for 2 weeks, so we've kind of got to think ahead. If this was a heavy flow and I knew it was going to persist, I'd probably give them 2 supers, but in this case I'm just going to give them 1 because it's just this mimosa and possibly a little honeydew coming in right now for the next 2 weeks. Let's see what this one looks like. This one just got requeened. That's our hieroglyphic for requeening, so that tells me it would have been a little smaller colony, but it sure doesn't look like it from this angle. There's a reason we requeened it. We might not have liked the brood pattern when we went through it. This one's really equal to the others. It's just got a few empty cells left, so they're right on time. We're actually going through this yard looking for swarm cells right now, which is a lot of work. It's pretty simple. These colonies were started about a month and a half ago. They're coming along nicely. But this is also the time for them to start building swarm cells in preparation for swarming right before the sourwood. So all we're doing is lifting the box up, smoking them back, and looking for swarm cells. Now this isn't a guarantee. They can still build cells up in there that you can't see, but more times than not, if they're preparing to swarm, you're going to see at this time you would see cups like this with eggs and larvae in it. And we've already found a couple in this yard. This one is not. This colony is really perfect. It's not trying to swarm. It's coming into its own. In the next week or so, it'll probably peak in population. So we've still got to contain whatever nectar that's coming in that's not sourwood. So I'm going to give it another super. This super, you can't tell on the camera, I'm sure, but these frames are, they got a lot of nectar in them. And it's splashing nectar, that's good. I'd like to see that splashing nectar. This is the color of sumac, kind of dirty dishwater look. It's good honey. I'm sure there's some sumac in there. We're just trying to keep this thing under control for the next 7 to 10 days, and then we'll come back and strip all the supers off of these colonies and put fresh ones on for the sourwood. Anyway, that's what we're up to. Checking for swarming, boosting the mediocre ones out of the weaker ones or the ones that have swarmed. Doing everything we possibly can to try to make a crop of sourwood. Sourwood is going to be valuable this year. Last year, it sold bulk in a barrel for $6 a pound. I've already set my price this year at $6.50. That's what I'm going to be asking for bulk sourwood this year. So that's a lot more than wildflower. That's why we go to so much trouble to try to get this sourwood. It's also why we go to so much trouble to try to keep it relatively pure. There's no such thing as pure anything when it comes to honey. If you can get it, 90%, 85, 90, 95% pure, then you can get that high dollar for it. So. So I only pollinate one thing these days, and it's this strawberry field. I guess there's probably about 10 acres here. We know the farmer really well, so we get along when it comes to spray and stuff like that. And somebody's got to do the quality control. It's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it.
Sometimes some of us have to do the hard stuff.
Yeah. Mm.